The Great Depression, the collapse of the American economy. Nothing looked good for the United States and its citizens. Yet, in the middle of the crisis, one single film made its way to fame, carrying immense benefits in the process. Hello, Storyticians! Great things can come in the worst of circumstances. Let's dive into the story of the release of the first King Kong movie to determine if this was the case. Remember that we want to hear what you think of our stories, to tell them better for you. So we encourage you to comment with your opinion and with other cool stories if you know any. Now, let's go back to New York in the 1930s. Just months before, the stock market had crashed on a dark day known as Black Tuesday. This was the dramatic end to an unprecedented era of prosperity, and also the start of one of the worst periods in the country's history. There are several possible causes of why this happened, but more than pretending to know the why, let's focus more on the how. The nation was not prepared for a crash, much less for one of this magnitude. Too many people lost their jobs in too little time. At the start of the decade, 15 million Americans became unemployed. In other words, 1/4 of all wage earners were suddenly left with no income. 15 million families lost their major source of income and were walking straight towards bankruptcy and poverty. For a country, that meant a general social crisis was imminent. Impressively, as if a deep economic crisis wasn't enough, the United States also suffered many critical natural disasters in the same decade. The worst drought in American history and severe dust storms made millions of people abandon their farms to try and survive. It was a horrible time to live, and there was almost no hope for the future. In the middle of this crisis, one studio in New York was about to release a movie. The name of the studio was Radio Keith Orpheum Pictures, or RKO Pictures for short. Now, clearly, the company was greatly hit by the Depression. This was a very dark time for RKO. Their sales weren't great, and they too were on the verge of bankruptcy. Their only hope was to release a movie good enough to earn them enough money to survive. But who would be spending money on movies in the middle of the crisis? It didn't matter. RKO Studios had no choice. They had a business for the last 3 years, but the Great Depression hit them as hard as it could. That being said, none of their previously related movies had great success. Some were better than others, but none of them came even close to being blockbusters. This didn't look too promising, but the word was out that RKO Pictures was working on a movie, nothing like anyone had seen before. They were making a movie like no other. The rumor was so intense that Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, better known as MGM, offered over $1 million to buy the movie. To put that into perspective, the movie cost $672,000 to make, so they would be making almost twice the money instantly. The offer would be more than $20 million in today's money. From now on, we will be referring to all quantities in today's money, not with the actual amounts of 1933. Now, even though RKO Pictures had lost about $200 million in the previous year, they decided not to sell King Kong's movie. This was a bold move, but their leader David Selznick and many others in the firm decided that the movie had greater potential and they should be the ones to release it. It is also believed that King Kong's movie director said the following: "I was inspired by Amongst Stories, so go ahead and subscribe to their amazing YouTube channel." Well, it might not be clear if he said that or not, but do subscribe to the channel if you like our stories. Enough interruptions. Let's get back to the story. Months after RKO decided they wouldn't sell to MGM, they released the first King Kong movie in the middle of the economic crisis on March 2nd, 1993. And it was a total success. People went crazy about the film. It was truly something they had never seen before. It was a cinematic spectacle. It was almost like King Kong created a whole new genre, and it was alone in it. Certainly, with the great hype and the expectation exceedingly met, the movie also came with an astounding profit for the company that allowed them to continue working. The first weekend release made the most money an opening had had in history. Also, in the following years, the movie made around $45 million, and the franchise has now made billions of dollars. RKO Pictures was able to thrive in the middle of the Great Depression and is still working to this day. King Kong was coronated as one of the most iconic characters in the world. Interesting story, right? Obviously, we won't end the video without offering you another story to watch. Matilda Weil, the immigrant woman who challenged the status quo in 1880 and became a legend. Click here to watch that now. So, as King Kong's movie director famously never said, like and subscribe if you like what we are doing in this channel. Now, go and live the most vivid of all stories. The story of your life.